Panorama present over here. We are here to discuss on a topic which is contemporary topic. As we have already announced the topic, that is entrepreneurship and economic environment. And our focus will be in context to Indian environment, because we have to relate the things in the Indian context. As part of the earlier initiative taken by Baru campus to support the entrepreneurship development cell and encourage our students, young students, budding entrepreneurs. We are joining in the Global Entrepreneurship Week with the first topic today. As it has been quoted many a time, India is touted as a new entrepreneurial powerhouse and the next Asian miracle. It is possible that if we take the opportunity, it will happen, because it has been observed many a time. It is rather argued that India is shifting away from legacy of state dominated. When we talk about state dominated, earlier government used to support and entrepreneurs used to emerge. But now entrepreneurs are becoming entrepreneurs where government is supporting them because seeing their enterprising attitude or social attitude is also changing. So state-dominated commerce is changing towards a market-oriented system. Further, to support this idea, we can have a look on the line written by Surbhi Maheshwari and Shivam Agarwal in their writer, "Without vision, the people perish. Without entrepreneurship, the economy and business stagnates." So we are opening up this particular discussion for our students who can take the maximum mileage out of this discussion, where professionals are available with us, they can share their views and ideas. So we open up this topic where first we pick up entrepreneurship as a subject. So I request all of the participants of this discussion to start with entrepreneurship as a subject, how we take it. According to my mind, if you allow me to add few things, I feel entrepreneurship is nothing else but taking one action, that is dividing the world between doers and dreamers. Doers, they do the things, that is as entrepreneurs, and dreamers, they dream something big as well as they achieve that particular thing. Now, entrepreneurs, another part we can consider here, they sense opportunities very well. They grasp the opportunities very well. And they capitalize the entire thing in the knowledge economy, because when they in a system you have a large pool of entrepreneurs, like in Indian context we have a large pool of entrepreneurs where we sometimes call it is a knowledge economy. But now how to convert that knowledge economy into or capitalize into that particular knowledge economy. So whenever any budding entrepreneur is taking one step with a product or services, they become entrepreneurs. So I'd like to have your opinion also. When you talk about entrepreneurs, how do you perceive entrepreneurs as a term?
I perceive entrepreneurs as those people who search for some change in the existing system. They respond to the change and then they start exploiting that change as an opportunity in which they can make some profit out of. So it was earlier that entrepreneurs used to be developed as a family-owned business if they were into it. But nowadays the trend is changing, that if they are not comfortable with the existing system, they seek out new ideas and they introduce a change in that system and then exploit that change as an opportunity for profit making.
To understand entrepreneurs, I sincerely believe that we have to look at what makes them entrepreneur or how entrepreneurs are born. So going back into medieval days or even today, there are a lot of entrepreneurs whom we call them accidental entrepreneurs. I believe that entrepreneurs are just not born, or it is not their circumstances which give them the birth, but it is also about how those entrepreneurs develop themselves and get themselves into doing something that is different from rest of the world is doing. Either it could be purely being born out of Darwinism, that they do not have any alternative opportunities, or they look at this as their own medium of giving rise to their own opportunities. So building up their own opportunity, not just grabbing onto the opportunities which are available to them into the market. They more look at towards that in absence of opportunities, how these opportunities are to be created. So I think that is, according to me, it is one of the basic idea which makes an entrepreneur. Either he's aggrieved by the system, either he's not happy of turning himself into the job every morning, either that person does not get the space for the creativity this person has, or this person looks as an entrepreneur as simply a passion for them. You can call an artist as an entrepreneur as well as like you can call Mr. Amir Khan as an entrepreneur. So entrepreneur exists in every living, non-living substance or organism which exists. Exists onto this planet, and it is subconsciously out there.
Yeah, so rightly said. Now, if we just go into the history of the word entrepreneur, as we know that it's a word of a French origin, basically it was derived from the word entrepreneur, so which means to execute and to implement, right? So, or to undertake. Now, entrepreneurs actually adhere to this particular quality, that is to undertake and execute activities which would enable them to fulfill their own dreams or whatever their objective would be. So basically now at this point of time when we discuss entrepreneurship, it is basically an execution or undertaking of business activities in order to satisfy their primary and secondary objectives. Now at this point of time, as Professor Shantanu had rightly said, that we have lost the legacy of state-owned commerce to a market-oriented system. The reason being, if we go back to our Independence Day days, when our economy was just about to was in a budding stage, right after the independence, we found that for almost 40 to 45 years, we were struggling to get a good economic growth rate. And in the late 70s or maybe in the beginning of 80s, we found that many of the African countries also were having a better economic growth rate as compared to India. So at this point of time, in that particular time, the Narasimha government was there, and they come out with radical changes in our economic environment and economic system, and they brought up with liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And this was the turning point, and this is the major factor which has enabled us to discuss on this particular topic at this point of time about entrepreneurship. Because the ownership has totally shifted from the state-owned and the government holding to the private players, just on account of the reasons that the productivity has been more because it was driven by the dreamers and not only by the servants. Previously, the government-owned institutes, there was no accountability on their part, and that's why we found that many of the government organizations used to generate losses. And that too, instead of becoming an income for the people, it was becoming an expenditure for the people. So we were taking taxes and everything from the people and we were putting it in running the government organizations. But as we have seen since 1991, we have seen major changes in this, and entrepreneurship is one of the major factors that has enabled our economy to grow to what we are in the existing stage.
Sir, I totally agree to what Kamal pointed out. Earlier, it was a time when, the entrepreneurs were being influenced by the government policies, the technology, the socio-political climate existing in the country. But now slowly the trend is changing because entrepreneurship development or entrepreneurs are also affecting the existing country development. So it was not this in the earlier case. There was only one side effect which was taking place. But now there is an important role of the entrepreneurs in developing their own nations. Because if you see that if 78% of the development of the country is because of the entrepreneurs, the SMEs which are existing in that particular country. Now why is this so? Because it is contributing to the gross national income, it is increasing the export and the trade which is taking place, it is bringing about a change in the lifestyle of the people, it is bringing about a confidence level, an increase in the confidence level among the budding entrepreneurs. There is a capital system which is easily available for the entrepreneurs, so they are willing to take risk. So the financial institutes and the financial organizations are also succeeding in it. So I understand that there is a change in the overall economic environment which is taking place, as a reason of which there is an increase in the entrepreneurship development activities and also an increase in the budding entrepreneurs.
Rightly, my colleague said, and thank you for pointing out that changes into the regulations and making an open door policy for globalization, in '91, that has opened up India to globalization and has been able to exchange a lot of ideas, technologies, as well as given the whole world as our market. But I would just like to add on something. It was not just the policy, but we had seen one of the biggest change of this decade of 90s or 21st century was the dawn of internet. Having an access to an internet which has made us to reach globally, access global market at a very cheap cost, and as well as, let's do not forget this young generation which is like completely more into from playing outdoor games and playing sports. They are more into like technology such as mobile phones, video games, and that has given up a complete new world. I believe that I was just reading through the last recession and the global financial crisis which occurred, and one of the most recession-proof or one of the industries which did not got affected, in fact its growth went up, was the video games. The gaming industry had like constant growth even during the recession. In fact, the more recession was, this industry was growing much faster because kids or students were not spending much on traveling or doing extracurricular activities, but rather they would buy a game and they can spend like almost around like a month on it without moving away and without consuming additional resources. So it not only worked out cheaper for parents to get them these games, but it also developed them to handle the technology and play around with the technology, be more creative with the technology, and also educate themselves through this technology. So not only that, they were able to exchange ideas and their visions with the rest of the world too. And that empowered them to create something on their own platform and in a separate world which was not dominated by bureaucrats or those who were traditional players or those who were experienced. Now if you will look at the first, a generation prior to mine, they were not yet into technology, they are not onto the Facebook, so they have kept themselves aware, which exactly this young generation needed. That they wanted this privacy for them to flourish. They did not wanted our elders to give them advice. They wanted to find their own roots, and this is what the internet has given them to their own room, their own space for their ideas, and how their ideas are being adopted or their market research is being tested by these other young entrepreneurs or this other young, exactly their same demographics who is across the world. Not only that, also if we look at, we were talking about India and its growth. We look at India and there is one reality which we know when we live in India, that how India is growing, and we hear the growth and success stories, as well as we hear about all the day-to-day challenges. But that is what when we are in India, and there is a whole another perspective of it, is that how outside world looks at India as. And they look at it as a cherry on the cake, and especially it is being compared with China, which had a tremendous growth and excellent opportunities being presented to the world by China. And they started comparing India with the China. There was two primary reason I believe is one is the population and the other is the location, the geography of India, which is close to China as well. So that is always being compared, and it was always looked upon that how China has become successful, India would be able to replicate it, and not just replicate it, it would be much better in terms of what China did, because every time a person in Europe or in America picks up their phone, they have for any call service, and most of the times they use phones for their day-to-day services, and they find an Indian behind the phone. So they look upon it as that they got themselves familiar with Indians. In each and every household is aware about India and Indians through their having their call centers or providing their accounting services. So that is out there. But there is one question which we raise over here, or which is I raise to my colleagues out here and my audience, is that we need to think about that when we are comparing India and China, absolutely China is having much better growth. But we got to look at growth in terms of sustainability. We are very young as a nation, as well as China's growth, I would say it's very young. And it is mostly driven by manufacturing and the manpower and the labor power. And whereas India is completely different in terms of where we have a better political system and we have democracy. Though some of us will say that it's an functioning anarchy which our democracy has compared to a socialist or a communism state. So what sort of growth we are having and whether that is sustainable or not, that is to be questioned even for China as well as countries like India.
Very rightly said. It's like one of the lines which were quoted was like India is a very rich country but affected by poor policies. It's like if you compare India with any of the countries across the globe, you will find that India is very rich in terms of its geography, in terms of its resources, in terms of its knowledge, everything. But still, because of very poor policies and everything, we are quite lagging a lot. In spite of the fact that we came up with a GDP growth rate of more than 8.5, still right now we are struggling to have a growth of even 5 to 5.5% growth rate at this point of time. So it's like entrepreneurship is one of the virtues which we really need to focus on at this point of time, so that we can really have a quantum impact on the overall economy. Not only for the higher corporates, but it's like the budding engineers or maybe any graduate who are coming out of the institute. It is very mandatory that we focus and we motivate these guys from the beginning itself. So as you said that there has to be some substantial amendments or maybe steps has to be taken in order to revive this particular economy so as to compete efficiently with other countries across the globe and survive in this highly competitive environment.
Exactly, I completely agree with you, and the point I just wanted to make over here was that the difference between the real growth which India will see compared to China is the entrepreneurship.
I too agree with what you have pointed out. I feel that it was not that earlier entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs did not exist. They existed, but somewhere they could not leave their dream. Like there were not so many facilities, or somebody was not ready to accept what they desire to do some business or something like that. And why this is because I feel that there are a lot of challenges an entrepreneur has in his life. For example, lack of information, or say lack of education on what is entrepreneurship or how they should pursue their dreams. Like I interacted with a lot of engineering students last week, and I found out they were not knowing about what is patent, or what is patent law, or what is the Indian Patent Act, or who is a consumer, or what is a consumer right. So I think that if we focus on some of the things, then we can create a total entrepreneurship revolution which can take place. I understand that there are lot many government policies which are prohibiting or say in a way stopping budding entrepreneurs. But then if information drive is spread across the students, they can, come up as a successful entrepreneur. The second is about the financial institutions. There are many financial institutions which provide capital for budding entrepreneurs. But as I said, the knowledge or the information about this is not available to the general mass. And third is, what I feel is the networking which should happen. Like if an entrepreneur is to develop his own business, he is starting it on himself. He is just exploring what he can on the internet or going through some consultants or something. But there is not actually a networking which is taking place between the established business heads and the born entrepreneurs.
Think very carefully, right from the definition part, as from where it has been picked up. Really it has come with the word entrepreneur. The reason is go between or the takers. The definition itself is talking about earlier days. We had only one thing, we used to trading. Now trading is not bad. Trading has to be there. If I produce something, I have to trade. Whether it is a product, whether it is a services or whatever it may be. Now when you relate this particular word with two things, opportunities available, as one of our colleagues was telling, adoption of ideas. We have plenty of ideas, whether it is in school. For example, one of the school student was saying, sir, why should I have 3 blades in a fan? Why not 2? I remove one. You see the idea. Now the point is both the things can be taken forward through trading also. Suppose I create a fan with 2 blades, I have to trade it. For example, here I go ahead with for students sectoral specialization. For example, if I pick up pharmaceutical as a sector, pharmaceutical industry, interestingly, whether it is a global slowdown or whatever it may be, because of the nature of the industry, it is growing with double-digit growth. Okay, because of its nature of the industry. So suppose student passing out from pharmacy, they pick up a business which is related to trading, pharmaceutical trading. He or she can become a great entrepreneur tomorrow. It is happening. For example, if you take Apollo Pharmacy chain, it is nothing else but it is a revolution in that retailing chain. So that way, sir, I agree with the point, how to adopt those ideas. Luckily, if you calculate like this, just 1 decade back, there was no subject in the curriculum. Now we have subjects in the curriculum, so far entrepreneurship is concerned. For example, in BE or BTech, if I enroll, in the first year, I decide, yes, I will try something myself, I will become entrepreneur. You have both the things now. One, government support as well as the academic support. Another thing, knowledge you are developing. Third thing, minimum 4 years you are getting to nurture your idea when you are within that particular campus. And campus is also supporting you. So if you compare earlier days and today, the opportunities are there. Only thing is, we have to identify opportunities, we have to nurture those opportunities. Now another thing, as Madam was mentioning, earlier the era was lack of capital, but capital was there. Capital was not going to the ultimate person. Now even the bankers, whether it is nationalized bank, whether it is private bankers, even venture capitalists, angel finance, so many things are available. So any student, right from the day one, they can start the business and keep that business into the startup stage, minimum 4 to 6 years. So what I feel over here for students particularly, from idea generation to converting that idea into business idea, they are getting in their student days 4 to 6 years time. Suppose engineering student or pharmacy student having one idea and putting that idea into incubator, and they are working on that particular idea for 4 to 6 years with the support of academic support as well as financial support of that particular campus. By the time they are passing out, they are a mature entrepreneur. Now the point is, they have to decide when to enter that particular area. Here is the role of the professional or the professors of entrepreneurs. If they just nurture those students, we have excellent talent. So that will be a suggestion to the student community as well as the professors of our country. we have to create an ecosystem where at least we can nurture our talents. And government support, obviously it is there. Now economy is open, there is no doubt about that. We can move anywhere. As sir was saying another point, interesting point, technological revolution has taken place. With a click of a button, we can reach anywhere, sir. So with this input, sir, I would like to put forward my views so that you can put forward further input from your end, sir.
Sure, I would just like to give you one tip which just came to my mind, and I think it would be very interesting to share with our viewers. Is that I would like to give you 2 tips in terms of when you are starting up with a new venture, or you are a first time an entrepreneur, or you are starting up something new. One is, I look at that what is business. If I break it down, business is in India. Let me be very specific. Business in India is about 3 things. One is business itself, and or you can say it in a more traditional trading. And the other part is the religion, and the third part is politics. Where in politics I mean to say the government or those people who are making the regulations and making the policy makers. So these 3 consist of business in India. Every businessman, whether he wants it or does not want himself or herself, he cannot detach these 3 things and do a business. This is what my belief is. So he has to focus on all these 3 things equally in order to be successful with his idea. So, and what do and one of the most important part is, if you look at how to win over all these 3 areas, is people. We say that, why do I need to understand people? Or I would say that every successful businessman, somewhere or the other way, has a very good psychology. Is because all your stakeholders are people. Your employees who are working, they are people. Your customers are people. You have to understand them. You have to know how they feel about your product. Your employees, you have to understand how your employees feel about you, so that creativity can keep on going, that productivity can keep on going. Your government is ultimately what? It's a group of people which is being represented with their own individual interest. So each and every stakeholder which you have to suffice in order to be successful is people. So you have to understand the people before you get into start doing the business. And the second most important part of starting up a new venture is, I believe, scaling. Scaling should not be not too soon, not too late, not over, not under. Scaling is one of the most important part, I believe. That is, after understanding, you have understood the people. That is understanding all your stakeholders, all their needs, and how, their personal interest, to their religious beliefs, to their political views. You have to understand everything about all those stakeholders in order to understand what are their needs are. And the second part comes in is the scaling. I would like to give you a very simple example. 2 friends decides to start a company or start their own business. One decides to have a traditional office, use traditional marketing techniques such as newspaper advertisements, flyers, local radios or local TV spots, and has hired a group of MBAs to promote, to do the marketing of that business. And whereas if you look at the other person who has started up a business, has started up his business by himself, he's into say photography, and he has started up his, he could also do the same thing. He can open up a big studio with a lot of employees and people promoting his business. He can use the local media to normal advertising matters. But this person has individually started, and he has started from home. He has started using free marketing techniques such as internet or social media, and also these services such as where you have Deal-on or Groupon, where certain discount is being given for the people who have purchased through internet and those who are active on the internet. So the difference is this: the first gentleman who has started the business speaks over his and to put you down. So you have to use more flexible and trial and error methods while you start up a business, and you have to constantly scale. So when you need an additional resources, they have to be only implemented at that point, not prior to that, and not too late as well, because you will miss out on the opportunity or the credibility of your business.
Now, if we discuss in terms of economic environment, which is going to affect the entire process of entrepreneurship, it's very important, and I would really like to give useful information regarding this to the audience, that whenever you start with an entrepreneurship, right, or if you want to, you aspire to become an entrepreneur, it is very important that you do your homework prior to that. Because once you get into that, you don't get much time in analyzing, in doing a lot of research on that. So it's better that you do it beforehand. And in order to understand this thing, it is very important that you understand the basic factors affecting the entrepreneurship. Now, as we say, entrepreneurship is basically a business activity, right? So, business activity basically it is affected by two major factors. One is internal factors and second is external factors. Now, internal factors are such things which are within the control of an entrepreneur. But the factors, the external factors are something which are not in the hands of the entrepreneur. So as you rightly said, that we need to focus on these external factors as well, and depending upon the external factors, we have to change our internal factors. Right? As you said that human resource, that is one of the major source and which the entrepreneur really needs to work upon in order to go for a successful business. So that is one of the major internal factors. But if we see that, as we know that in Pestel analysis, we have political factors, economic factors, sociological factors, technological, legal and other factors, right? So basically the economic environment, it comprises of two or three major areas. First is the economic factors which are affecting the overall economic growth. Second is the economic policies which are framed by the government or maybe by the local other systems. And third is very important to know that what is the kind of economic system in which you are going to do your entire business, right? So luckily in India we have a mixed sort of economy in which both private and public sector work. Now the major economic factors which affect the entire economic environment and the economic growth rate are factors like your gross domestic product, your per capita income, then your markets for goods and services, availability of capital. Now, how these factors actually affect the decision of an entrepreneur? Now, if I consider the per capita income of a country, right? So, if you know and analyze the per capita income of a particular area or a state or the nation as a whole, you will be able to identify what sort of goods or what sort of services you can come up with in order to serve the entire crowd in the best possible manner. Secondly, if you see the market for goods and services, now best example I would take the example of small cars. Now Maruti has been able to be successful in Indian market just because it was the first player which came out with the concept of small cars, which other MNCs understood it quite late, and right now they are coming up with small cars, and that's why they are able to have a good space in the market. Secondly, one best example would be diesel engines. Recently, you might have found that Maruti was one of the players who was very much focused into getting diesel cars. Whereas one of the major players, I would say Honda, it came with diesel version very late, and it had to suffer a major drawback just because of this particular thing. It didn't have any of the diesel cars in the market, and that's why its market share was reduced to a very large amount, right? So similar to that, availability of capital. Now, if you know that what is the availability of capital in a particular company, you will be able to identify what sort of business you really need to come up with. As you know that India is a manpower intensive country, it's not a capital intensive country yet. So if you come up with a business which is highly capital intensive, it will be very difficult for you to survive and maybe to generate profits over a period of time, because the gestation period is going to be very high. Right? Secondly, if you are thinking about some service sector in which manpower is the major manpower intensive business is there, then definitely you can think of such a business in India, because here the manpower and the labor is quite cheap. And that's why you will find many of the MNCs coming here and getting their setup here just because of the able and cheap manpower. Right? So this is one of the factors. Secondly, there are various economic policies which the current young crowd are totally unaware about, and they really don't have a in-depth study on this, and that's why they may struggle over a period of time. Now if we see the industrial policies which has been implemented over a period of time, maybe whether it is exim policy, export and import policy, whether those are other agricultural policies as well, because if you see that since in the last decade itself, I saw one report in which 60% of the entire employment was in the agricultural sector itself. Whereas agricultural sector comprises of only hardly 19% of the entire GDP growth rate. Right? So entire GDP has only 19%, but it employs 60% of the people. The reason being that majority of the people in India are staying in rural areas. The population in urban area is there, but not comparable to that, to the population of the rural areas. So these are the factors similar to that of foreign policies, right? So recently India had come up with a lot of policies and had amended a lot of policies in order to attract the foreign institutional investors, at the same time FDI, in order to revive the downgoing economy. At the same time, there are fiscal policies and monetary policies which the budding entrepreneurs are totally lacking knowledge on it. But these are the factors, if you have some sort of knowledge or in-depth knowledge in this particular areas, you will be able to, you will be in a better position to take good decisions over a period of time, so that you can sustain very efficiently in this competitive environment. So this was what I would like to say, that economic environment, it's like there are a lot of major factors and we need to really have an in-depth study on that before we go for entrepreneurship.
So I completely agree with you that and complete internal and external analysis has to be taken, a complete business plan has to be laid out. But I would like to bring attention of my viewers here that one thing which almost pretty much all the young entrepreneurs do in their initial days, and that is taking a big number and dividing it by smaller number. Let me give you an example on it. While they are doing all this analysis before starting the business, is that, say for example, I decide to come up with a cold drink or soft drink which I will be selling into the market, and I do my analysis, my internal and external analysis. Now specifically getting down to the numbers, when I do the numbers, I come up with that every day in India, there are 1 crore bottles are sold of soft drinks. Right? What I do is that I look at the Coca-Cola's number and I look at, say, Schweppes, which is Pepsi's numbers. And I say that Coca-Cola is having 38% market and the rest is with 42% is with Pepsi, and the remainder is with the small local drinks, local soft drinks. Now, what I'm coming up with is that out of this 1 crore, if I'm I just want only 1% of the market, so that is 1 lakh. That sounds very easy. Out of selling 1 crore, that is 365 crores soft drinks, bottled soft drinks being sold every year. Can't I just sell 36 lakhs 50,000? And if I sell 36 lakh 50,000 bottles, on each bottle I'm making say 1 rupee. So what I look at it, at the end of the year, I will be earning, I will be having a turnover of 36 lakh 50,000. So let's do this. I think this whole fundamental, it makes it, it sounds very easy, it gets them excited. It gets them that, oh, this should be very easy to sell, out of 365 crores, I have to only sell 36.5 lakhs. And that is not even a percent. And out of by just achieving that percent, I'll be earning 36 lakh 50,000 from the first year itself. So this is what, when they are doing their homework, they, lot of times they come up with these, they do the study of these numbers and they get the big numbers and then they divide it by a small number and they go like, this is an absolute fantastic opportunity and it should be a walkthrough in the park. To get that 1% sale is not easy. Like we look at, same again looking at this example would be like, Thumbs Up, which used to exist like, which used to be an Indian brand before Coca-Cola came in. Say, when Coca-Cola, company like Coca-Cola comes in and wants to compete against Thumbs Up, they're gonna like, sit onto the table and say that your budget, your marketing budget is say X. Our is X raised to 500. Right? This small entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs will not be able to sustain. So you have to do like, when you are doing like, the statistical and the number crunching, when you are designing your business plan, please do not take a larger number or an overall number and divide it by a smaller number and say that is where my focus is and that should be a walkthrough in a park. All the other factors and all the other challenges has to be taken, and it's not just because since you are focusing on small number, you can ignore all the other facts and you can straight away go into it with basic action plan.
Sir, in continuation to this discussion, I would like to add few things like entire world when they talk about entrepreneur or entrepreneurship, there are two things I'd like to appreciate over here. There are two words, that is entrepreneurial journey. Entrepreneurship is a process. As you were saying rightly, why students should understand entrepreneurship as a subject, or why academicians should understand entrepreneurship as a subject. There is another word with this entrepreneurship which is attached. Usually we don't pick up, that is known as intrapreneurship. Once I understand entrepreneurship, I'll start understanding the word intrapreneurship. Intrapreneurship is nothing else but it is developing a belongingness. Suppose a student pick up the word entrepreneurship, they become enterprising in their student days. If they are not starting their own venture, the advantage is when they join any organization, they will become the asset for the organization because they are already entrepreneurs. They will start owning those organizations like it is my own organization. So belongingness will start developing. You will become the asset for that organization. Ultimately what will happen, even if you don't want to work for say 10 years with any organization, since you understand both, what is entrepreneurship, what is intrapreneurship, ultimately what will happen, after 10 years when you start your own venture, you will know how to love people. As sir was also telling, people, you should know people. So in totality what I find over here, understanding the subject, entrepreneurship, ultimately it is going to pay dividend for students, for professors, for community, for globe, for society, whatever you say. Luckily today is the day or today is the situation where this word has been picked up by at school level even. There are so many schools, they have already started introducing entrepreneurship as a subject to make people understand why entrepreneurship is so important. And again I am supporting the idea, before taking the subject, people must understand what is the environment, as you were saying, whether it is internal, whether it is external environment.
Sir, I will add to what you have said, that it is very important for professors, for students, for the teaching community as a whole to understand about the subject of entrepreneurship and how to provide information to the students basically in this particular subject. I also feel that this is very much important because a student, every person has an idea, but that idea does not come out because of some individual, lack of confidence or lack of capital on that particular family does not have so much capital to invest into that particular business. So I feel that the introduction of the subject in the school and the colleges will help the student to to understand the risk associated with the business, understand the benefits associated with the business, weigh the pros and cons associated with the business, and understand all the economic environment, that is the internal and the external environment regarding the business. So I think this is a very good idea to propagate entrepreneurship and its development right from the school days.
I was just thinking of some of the examples which can which makes it different and which makes the dynamics of how you think and what you do in terms of business impacts. I would like to give you a small example of what is happening near one of the villages which is near Bhopal, which is having approximate a population of 4 to 5 lakhs, and just near to that village, down 15 kilometers down to that village, there is another village which has approximately population of half of it. But the pay scales into this other village which has a population of 4 to 5 lakhs, or you can call it a small town, is 3 times than the village which is just 15 kilometers down. The inflation is 3-fold then compared to the other village which is just down the 15 kilometers. The difference is this particular small town has electricity, roads and public infrastructure, whereas the connectivity for just this 15 kilometers is barely a mudded road. So you have to also analyze your surroundings, and that are also very dynamic. Even though they are just you might have done the external analysis while you are into that town, but you have to do the external analysis of the surroundings as well and its dynamics too. The other thing which gives India an advantage over this and compared to other developing nations is when you look at other developing nations, some of the developing nations have implemented a strategy where they particularly focus on particular towns. They develop them completely and then they move on to other towns. Whereas in India you can see that growth is happening everywhere. It's happening 360. Not at that pace what the other double-digit growth you see into other those developing nations such as Brazil, China and other countries. But over here the growth is spread across all the regions. I would have to agree that some of the regions are suffering the most. Initially when we started, we said that rich country, poor people. That's completely a correct example of some of the parts of India. Like if we look at Jharkhand, which has got one of the highest number of natural resources, but still the richest land but the poorest people. Right? And another thing which we are destroying while we are moving ahead with this globalization or MNC culture and privatization of public resources is that we are losing a lot of talent as well on this scope. While we are extracting those coal and oils and gas, we are also losing out on the aboriginals, their talent, their skills are being moved away and they are being destroyed completely. So that has to that has to be found balanced, and all the young entrepreneurs, I believe that this generation, there was a generation of a decade ago in India, the attitude of entrepreneurs was that when we have to bribe or there is corruption, everybody does it, so we do it. But this generation, young generation, at least are one step ahead by at least speaking out about it. Or if they are becoming part of it, they are not willingly doing it, and they are ready to speak out about it, or they are ready to talk off about it. But at least we have not come on to the stage where we start making the change, or we say no to it, or we stand up and say that we will do different. But there is a group of people who are making a push towards the next level, where you will see, I would hope to see, and I will see that there would be a decade after this where people would say no. Not only just say no, they will stand up and they will not only say no, the stage after that would be they will stop others from doing it as well.
Yes, I understand and I believe that was a very enriching discussion for the budding entrepreneurs. I would like to sum up the one talk which we had on entrepreneurship and the economic environment. We discussed about who is an entrepreneur and what is not exactly the theoretical definition but what we understand as entrepreneurs. We did a talk on understanding the changing government ownership, which is from the government ownership to the market ownership, which is existing nowadays. We also discussed about the factors affecting the entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurship development, which we discussed in lens that is the internal environment and the external environment. Internal is more of related to the factors which the business can control by itself, and external are those factors which are beyond the control of the business, that is related to the technological environment, the demography or the socio-cultural environment, or say the political environment as such. We also talked about some of the challenges of entrepreneurship, mainly regarding the knowledge or the information. Second is the financing of the business, and third is the networking or as such the indulgence of the lot of indulgence from the government policies or the government regulations, which is not so much supportive of the entrepreneurship development. Finally, I think we all can come to a conclusion. The role of three main agents in the society, that is the role of government, the role of say the professionals, and ultimately the role of teachers, because we are starting off entrepreneurship from the school onwards. So I think we are playing a very important role to the budding entrepreneurs, and we hope to discuss on these aspects the entire week. So thank you so much, and
I would like to take this time to put a vote of appreciation to my colleagues out here as well as my viewers. And I would just like to leave you with an idea. When correctly Mr. Azim Premji has said that please discuss your failures, because successes are not discussed, they are already known.
And my point will be, if today you are not doing anything, that is the indication that tomorrow you will do some great thing.
One last thing I would just like to mention is that it's like many times entrepreneurship being a business activity, many of us every time focus on entrepreneurship as a source of generating profit, right? But entrepreneurship is not only about generating profit, but it is actually based on satisfying the needs of the customers in order to enhance their quality of life, so as to provide good employment to the citizens of the country, and thereby overall improving the economic growth of the country. Thank you.